Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, more than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that, but don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's a new week of CinemAddicts. This is CinemAddicts episode 263. We are covering 4 movies. Me and Eric Holmes. Of course, Bruce is still stuck up in the attic, but the 4 movies me, Eric, and Bruce are covering this week are Dominique, Daddy's Head, The Last of the Sea Women, and Fallilng Stars. I am joined by my better Eric Holmes. I just mentioned 4 movies that are coming out on October 11th, 2024. Are you excited about talking about any of these movies without naming the movie? Is it a bang a week or no bang a week?
Yeah, there's one I absolutely love, one that was all right, and then one that's either probably the best movie I saw this week or the worst movie I saw this week, and I can't quite tell.
Oh my gosh. Where are you? Where does the pendulum swing at this second? Worst or best?
That's just it. It's on both. It's on both ends.
Okay, Eric Holmes.
It's a Schrodinger's movie.
Schrodinger's meow. So, okay. By the way, I forgot to mention our Patreon, which I am behind this month. Our Patreon episode will be at the end of this month. Bonus episode. We are covering the year 1990. So, Patreon members, if you have a couple of movie picks for me, Eric, and Bruce to review from 1990, please tell us. Now, Eric Holmes, how have you been? We are sort of under the gun because you have an interview in about a couple hours. I have an interview in about an hour and a half. But how's the last week been? Have you been finally? When does that rest come, Eric Holmes? Has it come as of yet?
Yeah, a little bit here and there.
A little bit here and there. You're still working a lot, still making that money, still making that cheese.
I'm working a lot. I'm not making that money, but I'm working a lot.
You're working. You're not making that money. Well, we're actually making.
I'm not good at this work thing. It seems you're supposed to work a lot and then make a lot of money. I seem to be doing half of that,
and half of that is due to me because of CinemAddicts. Me, Bruce, and Eric, we work for peanuts, but we love movies so much that it's sort of a labor of love. Are we going to use that cliche, labor of love, Eric Holmes, for what we've been doing the last 4 or 5 years with Find Your Film and now CinemAddicts?
I would say so.
Yeah.
CinemAddicts is the easy stuff. It's the stuff outside of that where it's like, oh man, why am I doing this?
Why are you doing this? I think that's life. And it's one of those things where, I forgot, before we get to the reviews, how many hours do you think you work a week? Have you tallied them up?
No.
You don't want to tally. Do you think you work more than 40 hours a week?
Yeah. I don't even want to think about it.
Oh my gosh. Look, Eric, I'm an expert interviewer. I'm trying to get to the root of the thing. I'm sort of like a festering interviewer, and you're my interviewee.
It's almost like saying, hey, your kid just got eaten by a bear in front of you. You want to talk about it? Sure, can't wait.
Well, thankfully, no one in our immediate families, Holmes or the Purkeys or the Srisavasdis, no bear eating, but a lot of movie watching. Okay, before we get to movie watching, can you put on your top hat? What do you want? What should we promote in CinemAddicts? Give me something.
What movie we want to talk about first, or
let's see. How about this? Please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Oh yes,
yeah, which is good.
Do that
because CinemAddicts YouTube. What do we have on our podcast episodes? We have
a bunch of interviews,
and ad-free episodes. Ad-free episodes, yeah, which is good. We're doing pretty good. So I release our CinemAddicts review episodes, this is one of them, every week. And each of these videos pretty much I'm trying to be more organized. Our goal is to cover indie or underrated, overlooked films that are coming out every Friday. If you listen to us on the audio feed, Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever podcatcher you use, we have ads on them and we make a little bit of money on them. So thank you so much for your support. But if you do not like ads, which I'm sure Eric and I and Bruce and most people don't, okay, you can also support us on YouTube and just listen to the entire episode ad-free. So that's one way to support us.
Quick question about that. So I got YouTube Premium, and it'll play them without ads, but without the YouTube Premium, it does ads automatic. They're not baked into whatever the video is, but they pop up automatically. I don't know if that's a case with ours or not, but I would say if there's ads, they're not baked into the episode. They're not baked. That's all on YouTube.
Yes, yeah, and the YouTube stuff, I upload the audio, our straight raw, well, actually, our straight edited audio, which has no ads from Podbean whatsoever. It's a straight thing. But if the Cinematics YouTube channel right now, we are at 623 subs. If we get to 1,000 subs, if we get to over 4,000 hours, and our channel will be monetized, I will have to think about whether to keep our YouTube episodes, our Cinematics episodes ad free. I will have to think about that, Eric. I'm not going to be a politician and say these ad free things on YouTube will last forever. So please help us get to 1,000 subs on
Actually,
YouTube. Get us 4,000. Yes.
Here's an ad for you. Middle Class Film Class and Force 5 podcast both interviewed Brennan Tamburi, who did writer and director and everything else of Plan B. And so you should go listen to those. I had a great conversation with them, enjoyed the movie a lot. And, they talked to him over there as well. So go ahead and listen to them talking with him.
Why are you mentioning Middle Class Film Class and Force 5 podcast? Because this is Cinematics, and those podcasts are more professional than us, Eric.
They are
making us looking really bad.
And that's why you should listen to them. Don't compare them to us because that'll make us look terrible. But
yeah, Jason Kleberg of the Force 5. I like to call it the Fantastic Force 5 podcast. He's a real. He does editing. He does the whole thing he engineers the episode, and his questions are thoughtful. You and I, we're eating potato chips and just talking. I mean,
you listen to this part of Cinematics, and you're like, Eric, Greg, hurry the hell up already. And then you get to Bruce's part, and it's like, oh, finally, the good part of the podcast. And then when you're done with that, then you listen to the Middle Class Film Class, and it's like, oh, okay, this is what a good podcast is supposed to sound like. And then you listen to Force 5, and it's like, ooh, more of that, please. This is me and Greg. We're just your vegetables. You got to get through it, but dessert's on the way.
Dessert's on the way, and thank you, listeners, for getting through it with me and Eric talking about movies. Look, we're trying to kvetch here, but we're not. We're telling the gosh darn truth. Bruce Purkey, Jason Kleberg over at Force 5, Tyler Noe, Joseph Navarro, and Peter Beta, chairman of the board over at Middle Class Film Class. These are all great podcasters and cinephiles. Me and Eric, as you're going to really witness within the next few moments, you're going to realize why we seem to be in the bag for everything. And when we mean in the bag, we're just eating potato chips and hanging out.
Yeah.
Now, okay? So let's start off with the big potato chip hanging out moment right now with Dominique. I don't know where to start, Eric. I feel like I want to ask you about the plot summary of Dominique. Are you ready to talk about the plot, what it's about, and I can lend you support if you need so with Dominique?
I probably need help with this. So Dominique's a trained assassin, and she gets caught up with this family, and basically just tries to help them out. People keep trying to go in there and mess with them, and actually, the opening scene, Dominique, was she in like a helicopter or a plane?
So Dominique, she's a trained assassin. She's in a plane. She gets shot down in some, I believe, is it South American area? Well, by the way, the movie shot in Colombia. Okay.
Either way, she's in the passenger seat of the plane, presumably dead. And a couple guys are on the plane. They hop out. One guy stays back, and he's like looking at her and starts like groping her. That's a bad move.
Very bad move, because that's the last.
Oksana Orlan messes him up, and she's kind of I got like really strong Olga Kurylenko vibes from Oksana.
Right.
To the point where I want to see both of them in a movie like so badly right now.
So Oksana Orlan, she is the lead actress in Dominique. She is a trained assassin. Again, like Eric was saying, the plane is shot down. A couple of people try to steal stuff from the plane. That is the last decision, the stupid decision they make in their lives, because they are all eliminated by this assassin, presumably named Dominique. She eventually finds shelter with a family around this small town, this innocent family, because she has a one-night stand with one of the members of the family who turns out to be a police officer. Okay, so that's sort of a little nice surprise. But what happens is, by sheltering with this family and this police officer, she brings a lot of trouble to the family, because she is in trouble herself from possibly people back home who are trying to hunt her down. Maybe there's a drug cartel and corrupt police officers around the area who are trying to hunt down Dominique. And caught in the middle is this family, which includes a police officer, a couple of kids, grandfather, and the police officer's sister. So this is a very interesting movie, because I really love this action thriller. My only warning, and maybe Eric will kick back on this. I mean, not kick back, but actually rebut this. there's a lot of violence in this movie. So if you're looking for a clean action thriller with not too much bloodletting, you're not going to get it with Dominique. But if you want some violence, some really good action, great acting, and just solid grade A storytelling, this is a B action movie thriller on the highest level. This is one of my biggest surprises of the year. I fell in love with this movie. I continue to be in love with this movie. Eric Holmes, am I completely crazy regarding Dominique?
Well, yeah, if you're worried about violence, I would say just don't watch action movies in general.
But you know what I mean? Like, for example, Hounds of War with Isaac Florentine, there is a certain violence which you don't see all the bloodletting. It's more of a clean, like
I see what you're saying. Yeah, this is more like it's probably not to the level of the Rambo, the first new one, not Last Blood, but the one before that.
Sure.
It's not quite up to that level, but yeah, it gets pretty bloody. Yeah, this is just a really, really damn cool movie. Ana Orlan is awesome in it. We're going to do spoilers on this because I think we should do spoilers because the ending of this really caught me off guard in a great way. And I think it's definitely something worth talking about.
Yeah, we'll do it after the show.
But this at almost every turn kind of, you think you know what it is, and then you don't have any idea what this is. And then, okay, you think you know what's going to happen next, and then, oh crap. The only thing that happened that I knew was going to happen was people were going to push Oksana to the point where she was going to go full on Oksana on everyone. And then she does. Holy crap. She just kills everybody. She's like a female Rambo.
She is. The movie is directed by Michael S. Ojeda. He's been working with Oksana Orlan. They've been creative partnership for years. Orlan and Ojeda are also the co-writers of this movie. This Dominique storyline this storyline has been cooking for around 8 or 9 years. And do you remember what the backstory behind Dominique is?
Yeah, they had from the movie or from the filmmaker's perspective?
From the filmmaker's perspective, the whole history of Dominique, yeah.
Yeah, so they had an idea for a movie about Dominique, and then they wanted to kind of flesh out the story more. So they decided to make a prequel, which is what this movie is. But they also shot like a
proof of concept short,
Rise of the Phoenix or something like that, which led to this. And so, yeah, they got the whole world and characters and everything kind of nailed down, and it really shows in this.
What's interesting is they did the prequel because their original idea was actually going to be bigger budget.
Yeah.
And this was their low budget prequel, which is sort of laughable, Eric, because this does not look like a low budget movie. It is low budget in terms of other action movies, like maybe on Netflix or Paramount Plus. But man, for a prequel, this movie is so well done, almost wall to wall action. The antagonists are really well etched. I like the antagonists. There's a couple of antagonists in this. Really well done. And the third act, which Eric and I will get to after recording this, and we'll release it to our Patreon members, and then eventually our YouTube channel in about a couple of weeks, really got me. I was blown away by the ending.
I would say my jaw dropped, and then I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe they went there.
Yes.
And then I started getting chills in the back of my neck. I'm like, oh my God, they went there.
And I'm thinking,
I cannot wait for the next one.
Eric, why aren't more movies like this? You and I see so many movies. Why aren't they like that third act wrap up? It's just amazing.
My guess would.
Right.
I'll save that for the spoiler. I have my thoughts on why, but I wouldn't help myself but to be able to spoil it prematurely. So we should probably wait for spoilers. But just know the ending of this movie it's great. Just watch it.
It's great. Just watch it. Now, I want to attract you guys to this. Dominique, if you look at the poster, it's a woman who's an assassin and, she's got to kick a lot of butt. And yes, on a superficial level, it's like that. But there's a lot more layers to this because it's just a really, again, this is a top shelf B action movie thriller. And when I mean B in the best way. I'm really thinking of giving Dominique 5 stars. Yeah, you know what? 5 stars for Dominique. I love this movie. I think I'm really crazy about this, Eric, and maybe I'll get flack, but great performance by Oksana Orlan. I can't wait for the sequel, which was going to be the original idea. Like maybe it'll be a Dominique 2. I just can't wait for the sequel. And I hope this movie does well. And it's not under the radar because I hope they get the funds to make a sequel. What about you, Eric?
I think I might be 5 stars too, but I'm going to give it 4.5. And the only reason for that is because I know the sequel is going to be 5 stars, and I need to give. I'm just so waiting for the sequel on this, and I know it's going to be so much better. So I want to give room for that to be the 5-star one. But I mean, in my heart, this is actually 6.9. But Dominique is great. I love this movie.
Yeah. Again, I hope Eric and I are just not the only ones on this island, because I think this will have a lot of followers and a lot of people are going to love this movie. The ensemble cast includes Jose Conejo Martin and Maurice Comte. And again, Dominique hits theaters and digital on Friday, October 11th. Next up is a movie called Daddy's Head. It comes out on Shudder Friday, October 11th. Centers on a young boy played by Rupert Turnbull, who is understandably shaken up by his father's death. So he's left all alone with his widowed stepmother in a sprawling country estate. His stepmother is played by Julie Brown, and it's basically how they are struggling to navigate without dear old dad in the picture. So amidst the growing tension, the boy begins to hear unsettling sounds echoing through the corridors. Soon he is haunted by the presence of a grotesque creature bearing a disturbingly familiar resemblance to his late father. Sounds like a very interesting plot. Could be is it a gothic horror? Is it interesting? Eric Holmes, what is Daddy's Head for you? Was it a worthwhile watch?
So this is kind of like a family drama, a couch in horror. Like the horror is not, so what movie were we talking about last time? There was a movie we were talking about where like there's like horror elements, but the horror elements are more of a metaphor for what's really going on. It's kind of one of those sort of things. So Julie, the husband died, and Julie's left with her stepson. Not even can't even remember if they're married or not. But either way, she's left with.
She's the stepmother. She's considered the stepmother.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the thing is, she's kind of torn on whether she wants to keep Isaac or not, because the people come, read the will to her, and it's like, look, you're left with the house and the money and all this stuff, and you get first dibs of whether or not you want to be the caretaker for Isaac. We see no reason why you couldn't be, but that's up to you. And she's like, I don't know if I want to. And her and Isaac's relationship really isn't that strong, because she was in love with the dad. She didn't really have a strong connection with the kid. And so, Rupert Turnbull, who plays Isaac, he's actually pretty good in this in parts, but like most of the time he's just kind of relegated as kid looking at his phone the whole time. So he didn't get a lot to do, but there's a couple scenes where he gets to kind of shine and, actually act in this, and he's really good in those parts. But mostly he's just kind of just separated, from Laura. And that's because Laura doesn't really engage with him. And then so he starts seeing stuff like out in the backyard or out in the woods, as does the dog. And we find out later that it's either his dad or some demon thing posing as his dad. I'm not quite sure which one it is. But I think a lot of that stuff has to do more with, it's a metaphor for how the relationships are going more than, that's actually happening. It's a little confusing at times. It does go pretty slow, but it goes slow, and I'm kind of interested in what happens next. So I was able to, hang through it. But at the same time, it didn't. Oh, I know what it was. It was that cat movie. Can't remember. The woman who slowly gets bitten by a cat and slowly turns into a cat throughout.
Oh, I forgot the name of the movie too. Yeah.
This one's a little better than that, a little more focused than that, but it's still a little kind of didn't quite get all of it. But it's pretty decent. This would be kind of on the level of like Babadook. Although I think I like this better than Babadook, because I really didn't like Babadook at all. But I don't know how other people, because I know a lot of people love the Babadook, so I don't know where this falls in with that with other people. But for me, this better than Babadook, but still could be a little better, I think.
Written and directed by Benjamin Barfoot. What is your final comment and rating on Daddy's Head?
I'd probably go 3 stars on this. Okay. Maybe 3.5. Rupert Turnbull, he's really good, and kind of one of those child actors that you probably do well to put him in more movies.
Okay. All right.
But he just didn't have a lot to do in this. But again, like when the scenes hit, when he did get to do stuff, I was like, yeah, he's a pretty good child actor, I think.
Cool. 3 or 3.5, Eric. What do you think?
I'll go 3 stars on this.
3 stars for Eric Holmes. 4, again, Daddy's Head. It is in, not theaters, it's in Shudder. Shudder. If you have that streaming service starting October 11th. Unfortunately, I did miss out on Daddy's Head. I did not miss out on this documentary, however, called The Last of the Sea Women. It's a documentary about, quote, an extraordinary band of feisty grandmother warriors. They wage a spirited battle against vast oceanic threats. So it's interesting. It's set in South Korea's Jeju Island. And Eric, I think you would have really enjoyed this documentary. It centers on these grandmothers, no, not grandmothers, but they're elderly women. They're called Hanyo. They're Hanyo divers. And what Hanyo divers do is they go into the ocean and they find different marine, whether sea urchins or different marine wildlife there. They collect them, they bring them back to shore, they pluck them, and they sell them and whatnot. But Hanyos have been part of South Korea's Jeju Island for generations. I think they maybe even going back all the way to the 1960s. The problem is, because of climate change, what's going to happen, this was set around the time when Japan was going to actually release some of the radioactive waste from Fukushima into the waters. And some of those waters would actually possibly lead to a threat to the area surrounding Jeju Island. So there's a portion where the Hanyos actually are activists and trying to stop this thing from happening. But then I think most of The Last of the Sea Women, it really focuses on the lives of several of these Hanyos. And you get to look, they're now in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and you get to see why they are passionate about the ocean, about being Hanyo, how initially Hanyos were looked down upon, but as generations moved on, they are now a respected part of the culture in Jeju Island. There's also 2 younger Hanyos who live in a neighboring island. I forgot what it's called, Joje. And you get to see their lives and how they try to connect with these older Hanyos as well. This is directed by Soo Kim. Very touching movie. You get to really see just their lives and their dedication to their craft. Beautiful shots of the ocean, of course, and Jeju Island is beautiful. And I was just really immersed in their fight to make sure that their tradition continues to stay alive, and also their fight to make sure this nuclear waste, this wastewater, doesn't invade the shores of Jeju Island. I wish this movie, I could have done 3 hours of this movie because I really wanted even more Hanyos to be spotlighted in The Last of the Sea Women. But this is actually a high profile movie. It's being distributed by A24. It will be out on Apple TV Plus starting Friday, October 11th. And Malala, this icon, Malala Yousafzai, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but Malala is one of the film's producers. So this is not one of those documentaries that's going to be hard to find. If you have Apple TV, your Apple TV Plus, you can see this really wonderful documentary, The Last of the Sea Women, out Friday, October 11th. My rating for this is 4.5 stars. Really love this documentary. We'll probably watch it again. And I don't know, one of these days, I can't wait to have my niece, who is a swimmer, see The Last of the Sea Women as well. This is a very inspiring, evocative, made me tear a couple of times. So listen to Bruce Purkey's review of The Last of the Sea Women, and you're going to see there's a huge disconnect between my review and Bruce's review towards the end with CinemAttic. I'm not going to tell you if he recommended it or not, but you should listen to Bruce's review. But yes, I really love this movie. Also forgot to mention, Eric, that for Daddy's Head, Bruce actually disagreed with you as well as far as his rating. I'm not going to give out his rating right now, but people can listen to his thoughts on Daddy's Head in a bit. All right, so movie number 4 is a film called Fallilng Stars. It hits VOD in select theaters October 11th. It's the debut of director-producer duo Richard Karpala and Gabriel Binsicki. Binsicki is also the DP of the film, and Karpala is the writer as well, and both of them co-directed this movie. It centers on primarily 3 brothers who, on one evening of the harvest, here's the thing, the world is now, witches are part of humanity. And I don't know if it's an annual thing, but there's a harvest where the witches come down from the sky to accept the offerings from human beings, I think. But they look like, when you look at the sky, they're not actually falling stars, they're falling witches. That's why, but they look like falling stars. And so we live in a world supposedly where witches are part of our human existence. And what happens is three brothers decide one night during harvest season, to look at a witch that's buried out in the middle of, I think it's the Mojave Desert. They go with one of their friends, and the first like maybe 25% of the movie has them just venturing out and trying to find this witch under the ground. When that happens, a lot of things do not go their way, and then they have to figure out how to remove the curse that has inflicted their family. That is a premise of Falling Stars. And here it says, quote, "It is a quote, a bold deconstruction of the classic witch mythos. The film is set in an alternate reality where witches are very real." Did this movie seem very real to you, Eric? What did you think of Falling Stars?
Seemed very unreal to me. This is the one that I can't tell if it's brilliant or terrible. So first of all, like even calling that, like they do actually call them witches in the movie, but to describe this as a witch movie to someone, they're going to be confused because like their version of witches in this movie are very different than what I think most people think of witches. One of the things that I did like is that they're all talking about witches and reacting to the falling stars as if this is just something they know about. Like, don't play in the street. There's cars. They're going to hit you. Don't be outside when there's falling stars because the witches will get you. That sort of thing. So it's not like anyone trying to convince anyone. Just everyone seems to already know about this. But then they have like that guy that does the radio show, like the Coast to Coast with George Norrie, that sort of thing. And in the context of this, it seems less like a conspiracy theory sort of show and more like an actual news program, really, which is interesting. It's kind of cool watching these characters who already know about this world and they're not surprised. Like they when they get in danger, they realize the danger they're in, but they're not surprised about it because this is, oh no, I walked into the woods and a bear attacked me. Like I'm definitely feeling the danger, but I'm not surprised that happened because bears live in the woods. I walked out into the woods and it attacked me, But it was kind of cool being someone from the outside because I don't know this world and I'm watching the characters go through this that have, this is all old hat to them. So that was pretty interesting. And then like the acting in this is very strange because there's like one actor acting a very like, I would almost say bad acting, but then the other characters kind of are doing the air quote bad acting in the same way that they are. So now it doesn't seem like bad acting anymore. It seems like a stylistic choice. And then was it the mom character that she shows up like halfway through the movie and she starts acting kind of distant and weird. And at first it was like, oh man, she's doing the bad acting thing too, but she's doing the bad acting in a different way. And then I realized, oh wait, no, maybe she's possessed, or I don't know what.
It's the whole thing with the witches, though, right?
Yeah, it's weird because, like, on one hand, like I could watch this movie in a way and say, the acting's terrible and the story doesn't make sense and this and that, but then like I couldn't get this movie out of my head because I'm seeing all these things instead of seeing them as flaws. I'm seeing them as a pattern of stylistic choices in this movie. And now I'm like, what does it all mean, man? And then start doing conspiracy theories of my own just based on this movie, just trying to put the pieces together. And I couldn't stop doing that. So yeah, this movie is either absolutely brilliant and I'm still trying to catch up with it, or it's completely stupid and I'm just tripping over myself for no reason and I cannot decide which one it is. This might be the hardest movie to rate stars, and I wish we didn't do it, and especially for this movie. I have no idea.
You have no idea. You don't have a star rating for this.
I don't think I do.
Yeah, this movie is weird because it looks really good.
Oh yeah.
The movie looks, and they probably shot it for not that much money. And it's one of these things, again, it's directed by Richard Carpala, who's the writer, Gabriel Binsicki, and I apologize for mispronouncing the name. Gabriel, he does such a great job with what little they have to work with. There's a sequence where the three brothers and their friend, they're walking out to the supposed grave site, the burial site of the witch. And instead of using, and it's shot in the dark, and for several minutes, you just see flashlights on the ground with them speaking. This movie is very exposition laden, and they do some really great visual and especially some lighting stuff too, is in the interiors of the home. Eric mentioned the mother. She has a long, weird story monologue, which will either tune you out or draw you in, possibly maybe drew Eric in.
Or did both for me.
Did both. So, and there is a lot of dialogue, but the way the dialogue is framed, it's amidst a backdrop of some really visually immersive framework and composition work. And it's great because you don't see many indie-driven lo-fi movies that have this beautiful, strong visual sense. Bruce Purkey, he mentions this on the CinemAttic. He gave up halfway through this movie. He just quit on this movie, and I guess he hated it. He didn't want to even. I wish he actually completed it and just, basically pulled it apart. Or, I wish he finished the movie and he could have given it 1 or 2 stars.
I honestly wish the movie finished the movie.
The movie did finish the movie did finish the movie.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. No. Here's the thing.
Wait. How do you think it does not finish the movie?
It was wrapping up. They were getting so close. They were getting so close to like tying things up. I'm like, I get it now. And then they roll credits. I'm like, I was like, don't you dare roll credits. Like it went black. I'm like, don't you dare roll credits. And then it did another shot. I'm like, okay, it's still going. Thank God. We're going to figure out this thing. And then the credits start rolling. I'm like, you son of a. Oh!
No. I totally disagree. The ending was perfect. I mean, people can read it however they want. So yeah, you might have an open-ended ending, like Eric said, but for me, it's a very final ending, which is excellent. But there were some frustrating moments in Fallilng Stars, but this folk horror film, I'm giving it credit for its lo-fi, giving a ton of credit for its visual sense. The mother, that monologue is fantastic by the mother. I thought she was great in this movie. And when she's acting weird, I can't really give spoilers, but that's intended, in my opinion.
Does that make sense though, what I was saying about that, where it seems like it's bad acting, but it's like across the board, so it's more like a stylistic choice. Yeah, everyone's acting eccentric because they're living in a world where witches can just pretty much snap them up and make them disappear. So people are always going to be a little bit off base. And well, not just like the actual, like the way they talk to each other. It sounds, I don't know. It's just weird, but it's consistently weird. And it's not like they're in distress or anything like that. It's just their characters act, very strange. Yeah, the fact that we're actually talking about this movie longer than an average review means that there's some really interesting stuff to talk about at Fallilng Stars. I really wish Fallilng Stars, not Fallilng Stars, but Fallilng Stars, I'm going to be honest, I was frustrated at points in this movie. Ultimately, though, the third act nails it for me, and the performances were solid, and I loved the way this movie looked. If I saw this in the theater, I would have liked it. And it's one of those movies that I think it would have looked really good in the theater. But anyways, it's on VOD, select theaters October 11th. Eric is wondering whether it's the worst movie he saw this week or the best. And for me, Fallilng Stars, 4 stars. Loved it. Yeah. What final thoughts or ratings, Eric? Yeah, I'm all over the place on this one. I'm literally trying to decide between 0.5 star and 5 stars because I honestly don't know. I'm gonna give the filmmakers the benefit of the doubt and think, because I do think that like the air quote bad parts of it are like consistent with with the acting. The bad acting is consistent across the boards. Like it's kind of okay. Like you see Bill Murray in a Wes Anderson movie, and then you see Bill Murray in any other movie. He acts a certain way in a Wes Anderson movie, but he also acts in a similar way that everyone else in a Wes Anderson movie acts. I got you. Yeah. So that's kind of what the characters are like here. They're acting in a really strange way, but they're all consistently acting like that. So I'm gonna give the filmmakers the benefit of the doubt. By the way, this movie would be a better watch second time around too. Probably the 20th time. Yeah. And I mean, just the fact that I'd spent so much time after watching the movie trying to pick it apart. Like that doesn't happen in a bad movie. With the cat movie, I was more puzzled. Like I'm like, I don't get the metaphor. It doesn't really connect or make any sense. With this, I'm like picking parts and like actually putting pieces together, and I haven't figured it all out, but there's enough there for me to play with and try to figure it out. So I'm gonna go 5 stars on this. I'm just going to assume this is great because I spent so much time thinking about it and pondering it and trying to, this is a well thought out movie.
And to your point, it's really well thought out and nuanced, and they're trying to build a world here. And I'm just so looking forward to if they decide to make another film together with maybe a little bit more money or whatever, a bigger.
I'd be down with that.
I'd be totally down with it. Maybe, gosh, this could be I think this movie could be a calling card for these filmmakers because it's just a lot. I was highly impressed with this movie.
Yeah.
Again, there were moments where it almost lost me, but it kept. I kept coming back for more. So, and I kind of agree with your stuff with the acting because you're wondering, this doesn't feel like a regular folk horror movie. Even it's just a way, but the way it's done, I think it's a really well done film overall.
I would say that if we could have reviewed this yesterday, could have reviewed it tomorrow, and it could have been a half star either one of those days. But I'm landing on 5 stars now. I'll stick with that. But again, hey, if you watch Falling Star, like Bruce said, I bailed halfway through. I get that too. So if you watch and you're like halfway through, and you think it sucks, like. I get it, and like part of me agrees, but then part of me like, yeah, this was not a good one to put star ratings on. I think this movie is just so strange and out there that it kind of goes beyond that sort of thing. Yeah. Ironically, because it's about falling stars and doesn't really lend itself to star ratings.
Oh yeah, falling brujas, falling witches.
Yeah, give it 5 witches.
That's amazing. Okay, so anyways, this is one of our longest discussions on a movie in a while. So that I don't know. I'm just gonna say, CinemAddicts listeners, give Falling Stars a shot. And if you completely hate it, like Bruce did, you can yell at me and Eric. We allow that. And just remember, Eric is a little bit conflicted on this movie, but it's really cool that he gave it 5 stars. I give 4 stars. Falling Stars. It's such an interesting movie. You rated this higher than Dominique, by the way. Wow. So
yeah.
So anyways, that's amazing.
I actually feel pretty bad about that. Well, technically I would have given Dominique 5 stars, but I'm giving it 4.5 because I'm waiting for the second one. I want to give that one.
What if the second one never comes? All right.
Go watch Dominique. Everyone go watch Dominique so they can make a second one. And then if you're independently wealthy, throw all the money at the Michael Ojeda so he can make Dominique 2 and 3, and then the TV series. Oh, don't make a TV series. It's
all right, so that is
speaking of TV series.
Yes,
I guess we'll talk about this later. But I get to talk with Sheila Omi again, who's in Chaos.
Oh, cool!
And Chaos is on Netflix. Really good show.
Just got canceled yesterday.
Yeah. See that, guys? This is why people like to say we're in the golden age of TV. We're not. We never were. There has never been a golden age of TV. Well, yeah, there has. It was To Catch a Predator, but that was where it stopped and started and stopped.
But
like Chaos was a really good show, and it's canceled. Like there's no season 2. So imagine this. Imagine you're in the theater and you're watching Falling Stars, and then the movie just stops halfway through. And then they come out and go, sorry, movie's canceled. You can't watch anymore.
That's so
you'd be kind of angry about that. You'd probably be, and then you go in the next week and you're watching Dominique, and then halfway through the movie, they stop the movie. It's about a fourth of the way through. They stop the movie. Sorry, Dominique's canceled. You can't watch anymore. Aren't you just going to say, screw this? I'm not going to this movie theater anymore. I keep going to watch this story, and they keep stopping it halfway through and telling me it's canceled.
I know, it's crazy.
But with TV, they keep going back. Oh, this one's really good. It's on the second season, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's not finished. Don't start watching it yet. It's a waste of time.
Eric, you actually brought a memory, just a weird memory in my head right now, just because of your whole monologue about TV and movies. I don't know if I'm correct on this, but I remember in the 1980s, because this ties into your interview with Mark Singer and Jane Badler. As a kid, 14, 15 years old, I watched V, the series. And if I recall, the TV series abruptly ended and I was so PO'd. I don't know what happened, but I remember thinking, this is why I watch movies way more than TV shows, because they cut out. And I said, okay, I give up. I'm not saying I didn't watch more TV shows in the 40 years since, but I just remember just being frustrated. I know that feeling, and I'm sure a lot of people from Chaos know that feeling as well as people who watch chaos.
I think TV works best for like a mini series like that, the Dahmer one, where it's just like it's just this.
You know it's gonna end.
Done.
Yep.
Game shows, great for that. News, if you must. Sports, if you're into that. Like stuff that if NFL was canceled like at the end of this year, that's fine. Like you're not, it doesn't have a through narrative. Like you're not waiting for the end. But this idea of having TV shows that go on like 6-7 seasons plan, and then so they set up all the pieces early on, and you get invested in that only to have it just cut you off in the nuts. Yeah. It's like, what is the point? Make a movie. Yeah. Cut it down and make a movie. If you want to make a sequel, make a sequel. But make that movie like be satisfying in its own right.
This was an unexpected episode.
The idea that TV is superior to movies is, I would say TV is different than movies, but trying to turn TV into like a long form movie is just a bad idea. And even the other way around with the Marvel stuff, like the Marvel's almost like TV infiltrating and ruining the movie theaters. Hey, you want to watch this? You want to watch this story? Yeah, cool. What's the story? Well, we're gonna finish it on the next one. Like, why not just finish it here? I'm here. I'm sorry.
You know how weird Falling Stars is?
I hate TV.
You know how weird Falling Stars. This is how weird Falling Stars is. I think last night Eric was looking at the stars. A witch came in and invaded his brain, so he had a 5-minute monologue on TV and movies. This is one weird episode. This is one weird episode over at CinemAddicts. Not saying it's not a really good episode. I had a good time talking about this stuff. CinemAddicts episode 263. Final thoughts, Eric Cowan, before we get to Bruce.
Wolves is on Apple TV Plus. I think a bunch of people saw it already. It's Brad Pitt and George Clooney, the movie. Check it out. It's kind of fun. It kind of sucks that John Watts got taken from us for so long.
Yeah, Cop Car, right?
Like Cop Car was good, Clown was good, Wolves was all right, but like I think the Marvel Machine kind of smoothed off all of John Watts's edges, and
wow, yeah.
Well, Wolves could have been so much better.
Well, Eric,
but as it is, it's fine. It's fine. And
you're not invited to John Watts's beachfront Malibu house ever.
Yeah,
just because of those comments.
How do you feel? I think he used to live here.
Oh, really? No kidding.
I know that Cop Car was shot not technically in Colorado Springs, but down in Fountain. Oh, I think Clown may have been too. And so he's from the area. And, I wish him all the luck. I just got that, those Spider-Man movies. I'm glad he finally got to make something other than a Marvel. I just wish this had more edge to it than like the Clown and Cop Car did. But
Eric, if people offered you millions of dollars to make a movie that smooths out the edges as opposed to doing another clown, what would you do if you were in his shoes?
Well, I'm not making a clown movie or a Cop Car movie now anyway, so that's a moot point. I'll be like, cool, I'll do your stupid $300 million movie and it'll suck and
you'll still have money. Yeah, and you'll still have money.
Then I'll take some of that money and give it to Matty Doe and Juan Diego Escobar Zate and Jonathan Quartas and say, here's a bunch of money.
Or that movie that you really love. Remember that movie that you really love about a TV person watching the TV or something like that, and it was a horror thriller. Not Skinnamarink. There's a movie and it's not this gin, not Skinnamarink.
Oh, the one with Will Wheaton.
What was it called? I don't know, but there's a movie.
Rent-a-Pal, I think.
Rent-a-Pal? Is that
where the guy's like Will Wheaton's? He's looking at Will Wheaton on the TV.
Yeah, I think so.
And he buys the tape, and he thinks that the tape's talking with him.
Yeah, is that the one that you really loved? I think from several years back. Yeah, Rent-a-Pal.
I'll throw money at them. You don't need me making movies. I don't know how to make them. There's so many great filmmakers, but if they want to give me like $300 million to make I don't know, Bug Man or whatever, I'll do it. It couldn't be any better or worse than the ones they got now.
All right, and final, before we go, just if you want to support us, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave a comment on our CinemAddicts Apple Podcasts. Use our Amazon Associates links in our episode show notes. Even though whatever you purchase or rent from our movies or our Amazon site Stripe, all four of us, including Anderson Cowan, me, Bruce Purkey, Eric Holmes, and the whole foursome, we get a little bit of a cut, and that helps with our expenses over here at CinemAddicts. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. Before we get to Bruce Purkey up in the CinemAttic, does he get water? You're karma now. You're treating him, Bruce, better now, Eric Holmes?
Yeah, he kind of earned it last time. So
what kind of food? Did you give him kibble now? Are you giving him kibble or real?
I gave him people food. It's fine.
What, people food? You didn't give him the good stuff. You didn't give him like beef bourguignon with those nice little tips, did you? You didn't do that. Not the
No,
good.
it was just McDonald's, but it was people food.
I don't know. McDonald's is people food. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. No,
It's
I
made
love
of
it.
people.
It's made of people. It's Soylent Green. Okay. Anyways, here is Claire.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining CinemAddicts.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Attic of Cinema, CinemAttic. CinemAttic? CinemAttic. This week I don't have a ton of things. Probably I have a shortened week. I am going to be taking a trip to Seattle area with my family. It's old stomping grounds. We've missed being there, and I need to see my dad because he's getting on in years. And while I'm up there, I may not be seeing as many movies next week, but I may also do some reviews from the road, possibly. Maybe I'll do them on the fly, and who knows what I'll see. But I will try to catch a few movies and get them out to you next week. Not from the attic, but from the road, Cinema Road. But this week is CinemAttic. I have 2 features. Daddy's Head. I don't know where they came up with that title. Daddy's Head. And The Last of the Sea Women. On top of that, I watched half of another movie called Fallilng Stars. I will not review it because it doesn't feel fair to me to talk about it if I haven't reviewed the whole thing. But I only watched half, and I had the time to watch the whole movie, and I will leave it at that. But by now, you've already probably heard a review of that because I think either Greg and or Eric are going to review that movie. I also have a couple of quick recommends. One is a short Japanese film from this year, which I just discovered on a list, and I thought I'd go check it out. You can find it on YouTube in various places. It's called Chime. And then it's a little bit of spoiler discussion about the well-loved already indie hit, maybe indie hit for movie lovers, called Strange Darling, which just made it to digital formats for people to check out who couldn't see it in the theater, like myself. Okay, first up, worst to first. I only have 2, so it doesn't really matter that much. But I guess the worst of this week was definitely, though, Daddy's Head. Daddy's Head is directed by Benjamin Barfoot, starring Rupert Turnbull as the kid in this, named Isaac, and Julia Brown as Laura. That's the 2 main characters. There's another character too, a couple other characters, but it's pretty much a twofer. Basic concept is this. The father has recently died, and he was married to a new wife, not the biological mother of the little kid. So basically, since dad has died recently, you've got stepmom and stepson, living together. And obviously that could be a little awkward right out of the gate. She seems like the kind of person who probably wasn't super excited about having a stepkid anyway. And now all of a sudden, she is the lone parent deciding if she should have a stepkid because, the people immediately are coming to her saying, hey, you can put him into foster care, you can put him into the system. You're not really required by law to stay as his parent. She's like, no, I can do this. I'm going to give this a go. And the kid's very drawn into himself, as you might imagine. He's, his dad just died, so you couldn't, blame him for that. And, he's the kind of kid that kind of just stays to himself. He's always playing, video games on it's not his phone. It's like a device, like an old PSP or something, but it's not, I don't think it's a period piece. So it's just some kind of like a mobile device that he's playing on. I don't know what it is, but it's constantly beeping and, making sounds, kind of annoyingly so. Like, as I was watching it, I kept hearing the same kind of cycle of sounds coming from his little game machine, so it sounded kind of like artificially thrown in there. Either way, he's just either doing that, staying in his room, drawing sketches all over his wall, which look like spooky kind of sketches, and they have a dog. Does the dog die? Yeah, the dog dies. I'm going to spoil that because how could we ever have guessed that a dog in a situation like this might die? I mean, how could we have figured that out? Anyway, the dad was an architect, so they have this really modern, fancy house, basically out in the woods, but it's really like angular and, looks almost like one of those 60s style, huge open windows and a giant reflecting pond out one window that leads out to the forest, that kind of thing. And she's getting drunk every night. The kid's not talking to anybody. And every night they start to have occurrences happening. There's lights, there's sounds. They think they hear something. They're woken up in the middle of the night. They walk out into the forest. So really the movie becomes, are they being haunted? Is dad returning? Is there a monster out there? Is it aliens? What is it? At one point there's a seems to be a dark shape in the corner of the room, and they go to investigate it, and it skitters off like really fast, like I don't know, it looks like it might be a creature or something, you're not sure. And the only other thing I'll mention, because I don't want to really spoil it, but there is like this kind of this stick structure in the woods, almost looks like a fort, but it's shaped more elaborately. And the kid's thinking like maybe his dad's spirit or ghost might have built it because his dad was an architect. But you're wondering, is that really what it is? Is it folk horror? Like I said, is it aliens? Is it creatures? Anyway, that's the basic setup of this movie. This, boy, oh boy, this movie for me, though, didn't work. And the biggest thing I have with this movie, I guess I would say, is this is very much in the line of low-budget indie horror movies that try to create a lot of mood and a lot of expectation, but just don't do much with it. And I don't know how to describe it any better than that, but if you've seen those kind of movies, they can be really frustrating. Now, sometimes the mood and the dread and the build up and the slow burn of it all can be enough if the payoff feels enough. But in this situation, I really don't think it just doesn't go anywhere. And I hate that same review that's, basically says like, oh, this would have been great as a short. You hear that a lot too. But the kind of true in this one. And maybe it would be good as a short. I will also say the other knock against this movie is when it does get to the payoff, when you do see what's happening, that isn't very satisfying to me either. It's underwhelming. It doesn't really terrify me or horrify me or creep me out. It was kind of borderline silly. You don't see it much, which also is probably a budget constraint. But once again, hey man, if you're going to have this kind of movie, you've got to at least at some point show us what the thing is, even if you don't think it's the best you could afford. Although I know I'd almost always prefer a good, cheap, animatronic, actual monster of some sort, puppet monster or something, than just kind of a hazy nothing that you ever really show us. And I'm not saying this is a monster per se, but this is more in the lines of some of those movies where it's like, is the creature the manifestation of their emotional state? That kind of stuff. We get a lot of those lately too. It seems like it's kind of falling into that category a bit too. Just not a whole lot here. This is one of those, if I could have fast forwarded it, I probably would have. I don't do that. But if I was just like at home and I was just on like my streaming service, I would probably have shut it off or gone somewhere else. Because it's just, even for I didn't look how long it was. It's like 90 minutes. It's not very long, but it seemed kind of long. What am I going to rate this one? It didn't really anger me. So I was going to go lower than 2, but it didn't make me mad. And it seemed like the people were trying to do something the best they could. And it was an earnest attempt, and it wasn't insulting my intelligence, just wasn't exciting me. So I'll go 2 stars on this one, but not a recommend for sure. And that's Daddy's Head. Also, why is it called Daddy's Head? I have no idea. I expected to see a head. I expected to see the head get, decapitated or, come floating after them or something. And, call it Daddy's Head. And plus it's something icky about the title. It doesn't sound like it could be off-putting. Anyway, no thank you. No thank you. All right, the other one we got is a documentary called The Last of the Sea Women. This one's going to be coming out on Apple because we got it through Apple Screeners. And this is directed by Soo Kim. It focuses on South Korean island of Jeju Island. I don't know how to say it. It's Jeju. And it focuses on a group that they call themselves, once again, I'm going to butcher the word, Haenyos. And this is the group of women that historically and traditionally free dive for, different kinds of food and things in the ocean. And so what they'll do is a boat will go out a little ways, not too far. So maybe the bottom of the ocean, wherever they're at, is maybe 20 meters down or something like that. They don't have air tanks or anything, just have a mask. They have a mask, a wetsuit, like a float with a net hanging from it. So when they go down, they just, they'll pick off sea urchins or, snails or whatever it is that they're trying to get they are seaweed. They'll go grab it. They'll come back up on that same breath of air and they'll throw what they got into the big net. And then when they're done, the net gets full, they'll pull it in, prep it, and sell it in the market. And they kind of go through how this group of women has been traditionally known in this island, and it started out as kind of a look down upon working class of fishing people, but over time have become kind of celebrated and kind of a tradition that it's kind of viewed, especially in this island and Korea in general, but in this viewed as kind of this, we used to do things the old way. This is the way that we should celebrate our heritage of how we used to do things. And we're not, using, air tanks and scuba gear, and we're not, mass fishing. And it's kind of seen as not only quaint, but a way that things could be done in a sustainable fashion. So that's kind of the overall outlook that people have of the Haenyos. And what you're doing in this movie is mostly hanging out with the different women who do this. Now, the kind of twist on this is that, as you might imagine, it is hard to attract people in the current world to this form of work. It's hard physical work. It doesn't have much technological assistance. It can be dangerous. It's not hugely lucrative, although they point out that some of these women do pretty well relatively, because I guess now some of these things that they harvest are, make enough money that they actually do okay. They can survive off of it. It's not like they're just picking and scraping for any money they can get. So based on that, the average age of the Haenyos is between 60 and 80 years old. So a lot of people call them aunties or grandmas. So you just don't have hardly any young people in this. So I would say, the first 35, 40 minutes of this is following just all of these people who've been doing it for years and years and years, and the tradition, how they got there, what they're doing now. And then you do find a few newer people who are, doing YouTube videos and TikToks and stuff like that, and how they're kind of the rock stars of that world, but they're also unusual. They're not, there's not many of them. There's just basically not many people coming up. So the basic idea is that this is going to die off most likely pretty soon. I mean, it's already has died off quite a bit since its heyday, because its heyday was probably in like the 60s or 70s. And of course, the other thing they're pointing out is how climate change and various other factors have really depleted and hurt the oceans, and they are seeing it like from the front lines. And there's a huge part of the second half of this movie that's about how Fukushima in Japan, of course, is planning on, at the time of the filming of this, is planning on a slow release of all of the stored up radioactive waters into the ocean over a 30-year slow release, which is supposedly going to dissipate it safely into the sea. And of course, these Haenyos, who are literally swallowing the ocean water on a daily basis and as part of their job and out there in it, do not see that as a good thing. And there's a lot of environmental uproar, especially by South Korea, who's going to inherit some of this, radioactive water. Big uproar over that as well, and that becomes part of a subplot of this movie. Overall, this is a solid documentary. I don't think it's I feel like this documentary is almost too small for like a 90-minute movie. I think that even as interesting and as kind of a unique sort of specific thing that we're watching, if it's not your thing, I just don't think it really goes a ton of places other than kind of where you might think it might go. The people themselves are interesting enough. The life they live is interesting enough. The kind of the subplot of the Fukushima water definitely adds some dramatics to the second half of it, but not even then, that's not hugely dramatic, because here's a bunch of little old ladies who swim in the ocean. How much effect are they going to really have on a giant government project to release radioactive waters? So a little David and Goliath there. So overall, I think it's okay. I'll probably go three stars on this documentary. I know it's pretty low, but there's a lot of good documentaries out there that are really, really exciting and really kind of engage you. And I think this is very much more of the kind of thing that you kind of get on PBS. So if you kind of like that style of very relaxed, traditional documentary about a specific subject, this might be more your jam. For me, I kind of need a little more zhuzh, a little more spice in it. But still, I'd mild recommend it 3 stars. All right, recommends real quick. I was just looking, it was some kind of a, you get lists just pop up on your social media, say things like, oh, the top, I think it was like Letterboxd top 20 horror releases of 2024 so far. And the weird thing about it was a bunch of stuff I've never even heard of, which is kind of unusual. I mean, we come across a ton of movies. So I started looking at some of them to see if they were available. And one of them was pretty much available. It was a short, like 45-minute long. So I thought, okay, that's cool. I'll check that out. It's called Chime. Like, you know, you ring a bell, it chimes. Chime. And it was a Japanese short by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. And once again, 45 minutes. You can find it in various places. I think as YouTube has a copy of it. A lot of times with shorts, you'll see that too, because, you know, people aren't going to hold back shorts usually like super close to the vest. They kind of want it to get out there because a lot of times it's showing what a filmmaker can do, and it's kind of a calling card for possible future movies. And to me, that's a great way to look at this. I think this director could have some promise. I think the story could possibly be expanded into a full movie. As it is now, kind of my gripes about Daddy's Head somewhat apply to this because it doesn't fully satisfy, but also it's a short. So you could see this being expanded into a full narrative that would have a full satisfying ending, whereas this is a little bit open-ended, but with a short you can kind of do that because you're exploring an idea and you're kind of, you know, seeing where it'll go, and you're playing with mood and all that kind of stuff. So as far as all that goes, mood, idea, execution, I think it's pretty effective. This movie, I'll give you the basic concept first. But first, if you like movies that are kind of the transfer, I don't remember what they call them, but this kind of transfer, like passing on a curse sort of horror movie. And when I'm thinking of things like Ring. The Ring basically, make somebody else watch the movie now that they have, Samara or Sadako coming after them. Or It Follows, where you basically pass something on. Smile, I think, kind of had an element of that in there too. But there's been a few of those movies where, and Cure, I think, is the most comparable. And I've talked about Cure a lot on here. And people who have watched it recently, some people love it. Some people, it's way too enigmatic and slow. I really love Cure, back from also made by a different Kurosawa, I do believe. And not the most famous Kurosawa. Back in the 90s, that was made. And that involved kind of a weird idea of hypnotism and basically people becoming unwitting murderers and how that was passed along. This is most in form and in tone, most similar to Cure. So if you liked Cure or like the style of that, give this a try. Like I said, it's 45 minutes. I think there's enough good stuff here to definitely give it a try, even if it doesn't fully satisfy. Once again, I'll probably rate it 3.5. The basic concept is you've got a young man in a culinary school and the teacher of the culinary school. They're kind of your main characters. And the young man is very distracted in class and kind of the oddball and kind of off to the corner. And the teacher, people keep pointing him out, like, hey, focus, whatever, come on, focus. And the kid at one point basically says, well, I'm not here for the class. I'm just here to try to distract myself from the sound. Don't you hear the sound? Which is the quote chime, right? Can't you hear that? So immediately you're thinking like, okay, does this person have some schizophrenia issues? Are they hearing voices? Are they hearing, you know what I mean? Like they seem like they're disturbed in that way. But the kid essentially is claiming that, well, I'll let you find out what he claims. He makes a pretty outlandish claim about what is occurring and what he's experiencing, and surprised that other people are not experiencing. And let's just say that what happens to him starts to transfer to the instructor of the culinary class, and he becomes basically the lead of the rest of the story as he grapples with what the kid obviously had been grappling with at the beginning of the little short movie. Okay. Pretty good, pretty moody. I like the filming. I'm always kind of a sucker for Japanese or South Korean horror. There's something just about the style and the aesthetic that really calls to me ever since the late 90s. So if you're into that kind of thing, it's worth giving it a try. And that's Chime. And last but not least, Strange Darling, which I think is a review, because I believe that Eric talked about it. There was a whole bunch of people talked about Strange Darling, and I didn't listen to their reviews because I was waiting to see it myself. I was really mad that I couldn't see it in the theater, but it didn't show anywhere very close to me, and it didn't stick around anywhere very long. But in our circles, of course, in CinemAddicts, people love Strange Darling. So I was very excited when it was coming out on digital and checked it out this last week. And I had a really interesting experience with this. And if you're in our CinemAddicts group, we had a really kind of interesting debate and discussion about this movie. And if you're not in the group, you should join the group. It's a private group. It's really good. A lot of respectful movie discussions. But I'll just say, I'm not going to fully review this movie, but there will be some spoilers in here because I'm going to talk about really quickly about some of the things that kind of nagged at me about this movie, but I also love. So there's a lot of talk about this movie as far as it's shot in 35 millimeter, and the great, Kyle Gallner's really great in this. Willa, I didn't write her name now. I'm terrible with remembering names. Willa Fitzgerald, and her kind of breakout lead in this is got a lot of call outs, and JT Mulliner as the director and writer and all that has got a ton of praise as well. My first reaction to this movie, I was like gaga over it as well, 5 stars. But since then, I think it's dropped to 4 stars. And I thought it might drop lower, but after that long discussion, I think I'm going to stay at 4 stars. I think that there's like 80% of this is just solid and right on point and still works really well. And there's that 20% that just nags at me, that doesn't, just narratively and script-wise, there's something to do there that I didn't quite appreciate. And so what do I mean by that? So everyone talks about the disjointed, out of order nature of the movie, kind of Tarantino, of course, is comparison, the fact that the first half of this movie we're following, a killer. They tell us in the opening crawl, it's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre like opening crawl that, this is this prolific serial killer. This is the final killings of that killer. So you get the idea immediately, okay, this is going to be when the killer either gets caught or killed. By calling the Kyle Gallner character the demon and calling the other one the lady, well, of course, the demon is the bad one, right? So, but you're also kind of knowing, I don't know, it wasn't very surprising when about, a third or halfway through, it's fully revealed that she's the killer and he's not the killer. So I don't think that as far as a full twist, a misdirection, that 100% is shocking or jarring. It's kind of like when you're, I don't know, for me, when I was watching it, I was kind of like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. She's going to be the killer and he's not going to be the killer, which I was fine with it, but it didn't blow my mind, put it that way. It was like, it was fine. It was kind of more interesting to see how through the misdirection they try to, fool us. Because obviously putting these out of order, we just immediately start with him chasing her. So that just really makes you think that he's the bad guy and she's the innocent one. But they also even there drop a few breadcrumbs that she may be a little more than we think. She's very resourceful. She gets off the road and she's kind of extra tough. She's finding, trash booze in the forest and, just dumping it over her destroyed ear and just toughing it out. And you just get the feeling she's a little bit more able to handle things than you might have thought. And of course, when you start seeing their interactions, in their quote romantic interactions, you see that she's definitely rougher around the edges than you thought it maybe at first, and that she's pushing his boundaries as much as he's pushing hers. In fact, she is really pushing his boundaries, and that's when you really start to get the feeling like, oh, she's the killer here. So anyway, all that stuff works pretty well. There's a lot of like thrilling, tense moments when people are chasing other people and people might be getting killed. There's the whole misdirect where we see that the older couple they found, the man of the couple has been murdered. And of course you assume it was he that did it, but then later on you find out that she was the one who did it. Once again, that didn't really surprise me when it happened, because there's a whole thing where they brought her in as a stranger, and I'm like, oh yeah, she's going to take out this poor couple. But I also wondered if they might get her back. Anyway, rambling on all this, the thing that kind of bugged me. So after all was said and done, I was like, wow, it was really good. I loved it. And it looked really cool. And it was really neat in structure and all this kind of stuff and well acted and so on and so forth. But I just kept like, what is kind of the point of this? Like, where is it? What am I taking as a viewer? And I want to be clear about this, because I don't want people to think like, oh, I have to have a good guy that I can root for. I don't. I mean, I have lots of movies I like that are all bad characters or all unsympathetic characters. I even have movies where it doesn't have to have a quote moral message or anything. It doesn't have to be that necessarily. But you also watch a movie and sometimes you have to wonder like, well, what am I supposed to get out of this? Like, is it supposed to just be a thrill ride? Now, if that's the case, it is what it is. It's a thrill ride. Is it just supposed to scare me and horrify me and just be just an experience that just beats me down into submission of horror? Sure, so be it. That's it. This movie kind of feels like it's kind of on the fence though, right? because it goes all the way through, and it's, it is a thrill ride in most ways, right? It's a thriller, definitely, and it's who's going to make it out alive? Who are they going to get her? Like, when you finally know who's what, are they going to get her? He's not a good guy either, so you don't care if he gets really killed. But when the tables switch, you assume, okay, this is basically going to be a battle between the two of them. But then there's the point towards the end where the two of them are essentially facing off, and he's basically got her. And they already established he's also not a very sympathetic character. The fact that he's cheating on his wife, he's a cop doing this, so he's supposedly supposed to be upstanding member of the community. I know Eric's thoughts on that, but then he, through kind of an awkward scene, he basically stumbles back to her and gets murdered. Now, that alone is kind of stagey. That's one part that doesn't quite work, because basically we've shown earlier on that she has this bear spray. He thinks he's got her. He's kind of gloating a little bit, like, now I've got you. You can't get away this time. You can't hurt anybody else. I'm going to turn you in, and your goose is cooked, lady. And she sprays him with the bear spray, and somehow he kind of weirdly stumbles forward. She bites his neck and, kills him, and he dies on the ground. So that's one point where you're kind of like, well, if I was going back and forth between to see who wins, well, she wins. That's the end. If that's the end of it right there, it would kind of be like, okay, I guess that turned the tables on me. Would it be 100%? It could be pretty satisfying. It's like, oh, all this whole time I was surprised and the killer got away. I guess it could be that kind of a movie. But then there's this extended final act where the cops show up. She fakes a sexual assault, laying there all covered in blood so she can get their sympathy immediately and look like she's been the victim here as they walk in on this crazy carnage. And there's this extended conversation between the woman cop and the male cop, and they're pointing out that the woman cop is immediately believing her, and the male cop is immediately like, no way, man, we don't know what's really happening here. We don't know who the bad person really is. We have to take a step back and assess the situation. I know what the movie's trying to do essentially is say, people always assume that the woman's, the victim, and we should kind of take a step back sometimes. Wait for facts before you leap in. And I get that. But this movie hasn't kind of been about that. But then as you look back, they make a lot of points through on the movie where she's, faking sympathy or kind of playing on her, quote, feminine, weakness or whatever to get people's sympathy, and then either killing them, taking something from them, or letting women live, because I guess she has some code where she doesn't kill women unless they are going to get in her way. I don't know. It becomes really morally muddy as far as what the movie's message is trying to be, because it's obviously trying to do a message about victimhood and women. And the one thing that really kind of nags me about it is that maybe it's not intentional, but I think the movie in some way is trying to basically, it kind of comes about, the whole point of the movie is basically kind of like, oh, you should doubt women when they tell you something bad has happened. You should just put a little doubt in there. Let's not automatically assume things are, So I think there's kind of a message in the movie. And once again, this is me being overly sensitive, snowflake, I guess, whatever. But it's kind of a message in the movie of like, sometimes these women are evil. You better watch out for them. I think that's not happening very often in the world. But sure, there are, Eileen Wuornoses in the world. There are a few out there. But boy and boy, they are few and far between. And boy, oh boy, I don't know, it just rubbed me the wrong way. So overall, like I said, 4-star movie. I still think it's a good movie. I still don't think it's super intentional. I just think it does a little damage there. I think it helps feed a narrative to the people who want the narrative. And I don't like that. And it seems also unnecessary. You could tell this exact same story, get to the freezer scene, and go 2 different ways. You can have him catch her, the cops pull up, they get her, captured. And that could be really satisfying because she's already said the worst thing for her in the world is to be in jail for the rest of her life. And that could have been the end of the movie. Or you could reverse it and she gets him and she gets away and she makes it out in the world. I don't know. It's up for discussion, and I think we had a really good discussion about it. I can see both sides of things. And I still think it's a really worthwhile movie to see. Hopefully that wasn't too rambly. Hopefully that maybe brought some ideas up that hadn't quite stuck in your brain when you watched this movie the first time, because I think it is it dazzles you with the flashiness and the music and the production and the acting that you don't even really feel like you have to think about it. But it also is one of those things where you have this great meal, and then at the end of the meal, you're like, wait, why do I still feel hungry? What's wrong here? Something's not, I didn't get quite the nourishment I thought I was going to get out of this, or I didn't get quite all the sugar I wanted, or whatever it is. It's just something that might get you. And if it's bugging you a little bit, maybe it's something like what it bugged me. And maybe that'll help you start thinking about it a little more and decide what you think about it. Anyway, that is all for this week from me. And it will be a little bit of an unpredictable cinematic from the road next week. But hopefully I'll have a few things for you. Talk to you soon.